Now the floor is given to Colonel Dmytro Hutsulyak, Ministry of Defense of Ukraine spokesperson. Good afternoon, everyone. Now, the information about the situation in the ATO zone during the last 24 hours on the 20th of April and the situation that is today. During the last 24 hours, on the 20th of April, the situation at the front line in the ATO zone significantly escalated. The militants of occupation administrations of Russian Federation consciously ignored the Minsk agreements and delivered shellings at the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine with the weapons that should have been withdrawn to the designated distances a long time ago. The occupants used Grad 21 systems and artillery and mortars. In the Lugansk sector during the last 24 hours, 8 precision shellings of the positions of our defenders were recorded. At night at about 2 a.m. the enemy made 9 shots using 122mm artillery on defenders of Popasna. With use of 82mm mortars, the enemy several times delivered shellings of the positions of defenders of Troitska. Also here, near Krymsk, enemy shellings with the use of weaponry of IFVs were recorded. With use of grenade launchers, large caliber machine guns and small arms, enemy delivered provocative shellings on the defenders of Novolugansk, Travneva, Zaitsevo and Novgorodska. And in the region of Zaitsevo, yesterday enemy sniper was active in the evening. In the Donetsk sector during the last 24 hours on the 20th of April, 28 enemy shellings were recorded. Yesterday morning at about 6, enemy used against Ukrainian defenders of Lebedinsk Grad system BM-21. The enemy launched 40 missiles. Shelling was delivered from the direction of Sahanka village. Also for 2 hours, on the defenders of Lebedinsk, enemy delivered provocative shellings with the use of grenade launchers and large caliber machine guns. And at about 6 until 8 in the morning, from this side of the same village, Sakhanka, our defenders of Shirokina, enemy delivered shellings with the use of 122mm and also delivered 20 shots. And also enemy delivered shelling with the use of 122mm artillery at about 7:30 against our defenders of Vodyane, and the enemy made 9 shots at our defenders, and 120mm mortars were used against defenders of Novodroyska, Shirokina and Vodyane. 92mm mortars were used near Lebedinsk, Vodyane, Piski and against defenders of Butivka mine. Provocative shellings with the use of grenade launchers of different types, large caliber machine guns and small arms were used by the enemy repeatedly near Avdiivka, Opatne, Verkhneterets, Knutovo and Nevelske. On the whole, during the last 24 hours, Russian occupation forces delivered 36 shellings of our defense positions. At that, the occupants launched at our defenders 40 missiles from Grad BM-21 systems and made about 40 shots from 122mm artillery and launched 60 mines using 120 and 82mm mortars. Our Ukrainian servicemen, in order to preserve life and health of military personnel, 15 times returned adequate fire using weaponry that is not prohibited by the Minsk agreements. These are service infantry weapons. As it was reported, in the result of enemy fire delivered by militants of occupation forces yesterday, 1 Ukrainian serviceman died. He was born in 1981. Our hearts go out to the relatives and close ones of and combat comrades of our hero. Eternal glory to him. Moreover, 1 Ukrainian serviceman was injured. He was brought to mobile military hospital. His health condition is heavy. Now about current situation at the front line today on the 21st of April, starting from midnight as of 9 a.m. today on the 21st of April, the militants of occupation administrations of Russian Federation once again demonstrated the open non-adherence to all Minsk agreements. Russian occupants actively used against defense positions of Ukrainian defenders tanks and mortars of prohibited calibers. In the Lugansk sector at about 6 and for 1 hour the enemy launched 15 mines using 120 and 82 millimeter mortars against our positions near Novo-Alexandrivka. At the same time, in the Donetsk sector, starting midnight as of 9 a.m. today, militants of Russian occupation forces have already delivered 9 precision shellings from 6:30 for 40 minutes. Our positions near Peshevik and Pavlopil came under 120 millimeter mortar fire and fire from tank. And also near Peshevik, from the direction of occupied Verkhnya Shirokivske, former Oktyabr, Russian occupation forces made 26 shots from tanks and launched 15 mines from 120 millimeter mortars. Also, at the same time, the enemy delivered for 14 units 20 shots from tanks, launched 50 mines from 120 millimeter mortars, and delivered fire from the weaponry of IFVs against defenders of Pavlovpil. Also, enemy shelled with the use of 120 millimeter mortars after 7 in the morning against our defenders of Vodyan. Russian occupation forces repeatedly delivered provocations at night using grenade launcher small arms in the regions of Nevitske, Peshevik, Pavlopil, Vodyane, Lebedinsk and Avdiivka. And on the whole, starting from midnight as of 9 a.m. today, militants of Russian occupation administrations of Russian Federation have already made about 50 shots from tanks and launched more than 80 mines with use of 120 and 82 millimeter mortars. According to press center of ATO headquarters, the result of shellings delivered by the militants of Russian occupation forces on the positions of ATO forces in the region of Peshevik and Pavlopil from the weaponry of tanks. The entry-exit operations were temporarily stopped at Gnutovo checkpoint that is situated in close proximity. Civilian population that was in this region was withdrawn to safe places. As of 8 a.m., entry-exit operations at Gnutovo checkpoint were restarted. According to ADO headquarters, this shelling once again shows that the enemy continue its practice of concentration of prohibited by the Minsk agreements weaponry that should have been withdrawn to the designated withdrawing sites long time ago. New instances of the use of prohibited weapons proves that the leaders of occupation administrations of Russian Federation that they do not want to stabilize and settle the conflict in Donbass. According to information provided by the main intelligence department of MOD of Ukraine, command of Russian occupation forces reinforces fortification equipment at the front line and continue to create a so-called third line of defense. And the Russian occupation forces ordered local agricultural enterprises and farm enterprises in the temporarily occupied territories to supply the units of the Russian occupation forces that are involved in the engineering works with the construction materials, equipment, food and fuel, and lubricant materials. Moreover, on order by occupation administrations of Russian Federation, under the guise of the initiative of so-called civil society organizations, they collect food products from the population of the temporarily occupied territories for food support of Russian occupation forces. This is all. Thank you.